My name is Emma. I'm 28 years old, living in Seattle, a city full of dreams and hope, but that seemingly peaceful life was shattered on a night I will never forget. When I wanted to find some peace in the small living room, my husband, Mark, suddenly stormed in, his eyes full of anger, with my mother-in-law standing beside him, whispering words that changed everything. In an instant, the TV that my father left behind, the only thing left from a peaceful past, was smashed over my head. Blood flowed, pain overwhelmed me, and betrayal pulled me into an endless nightmare. Have you ever experienced the feeling of being rejected by your own family, being looked down on, and losing yourself? If you have, please leave a comment below to let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to continue the journey of overcoming darkness and finding light in the story I'm about to share. I clearly remember those early days, when my life was still full of light and the good things that seemed like they would never slip away. Before meeting Mark, I was an independent woman, working as a graphic designer at a small but stable company in Seattle. I loved creativity, loved the feeling of building every detail by hand in the projects I worked on. Life was not extravagant, but I was happy with simple things. Waking up in the morning, drinking a cup of coffee by the window, listening to the soft rain falling outside. Then one day, at a familiar little corner cafe, I met Mark for the first time. He appeared with a polite demeanor, neat attire, and a smile that warmed the heart. Mark was a bank employee, looking mature but still holding a subtle charm. He took the initiative to talk, asking about my interests, my work, and even the small dreams I quietly kept inside. I remember at that moment, Mark said, "Emma, sometimes life brings us to people who make us believe in miracles." I smiled and thought maybe he was right. Our love story started as fast as a summer breeze. After a few dates, Mark took me to fancy restaurants, peaceful walks along Lake Union, and quiet evenings sitting on the balcony watching the city lights. He talked about future plans, about the dream of building a home full of laughter, and I felt the sincerity in every word. When Mark proposed after 4 months of dating, I did not hesitate. It felt like everything in the world was on my side, as if I had found a man who could protect and love me for life. My friends called us the perfect match. A perfect combination of freedom and responsibility, of passionate fire and peace. We held a simple but warm wedding with close family and friends. After that, we moved into a small house, cozy enough in the heart of Seattle. I spent a lot of time taking care of the house, cooking Mark's favorite meals, and trying to nurture every peaceful moment. My work remained steady, and Mark went to work every day like everyone else. However, in those first months, I discovered Mark kept another phone, a secret number he never wanted me to see. When I asked, he smiled lightly and said it was just work, important client calls he couldn't disclose. I trusted him because in my heart, Mark was a decent man, not worth doubting. But the truth is sometimes not as simple as we think. Small signs began to creep into that seemingly perfect life, making me uneasy, confused between what I wanted and what I saw and heard. I remember once when Mark went on a business trip for a few days, I happened to see a strange message on his phone, a meeting at a fancy restaurant with a name I had never heard. When I asked, Mark avoided the topic, saying it was just a banking partner. I couldn't scold him, but inside doubt started to grow. With my gentle and trusting nature, I told myself maybe I was overthinking. I still tried to nurture, still tried to believe in the love Mark had for me. I often called him after work, listened to his warm voice, and heard him tell me not to worry. I thought I was lucky to have a successful, polite man who cared deeply. I once dreamed of a home where I would not have to be afraid, not have to doubt, and not have to hide my true feelings. But life sometimes makes us realize that a dream is a thin veil, easily broken under the pressure of harsh truth. Looking back on that time, I understand that signs of collapse never come loudly. It begins with small doubts, cold gestures, unexplained secrets, and sophisticated lies. After those first months full of love and promises, I began to clearly feel the inevitable change in my married life. Everything gradually became heavy, suffocating, and I knew the one pulling all those strings was none other than my mother-in-law. Linda moved in with us just a few months after our wedding. The small house suddenly became cramped and much more stressful. At first I tried to welcome her with goodwill, thinking she just wanted to help us, but the truth was far from that. From the very first day, Linda showed clear dissatisfaction with how I took care of the house, how I prepared meals, even the clothes I chose to wear. She kept criticizing, not with gentle words but with sharp, cutting remarks. "Emma, you should know how to be a good wife, not just worry about working outside and forget the family," Linda said to me during dinner, her eyes sharp as knives. Mark, my husband, at first watched, occasionally stopping his mother, but over time he seemed to absorb those criticisms. Instead of protecting me, he began spending more time on work and with his mother. Linda's long phone calls with Mark made me feel abandoned. On evenings when I was left alone in the dark and silent house, I asked myself, is this really the family I dreamed of? Linda often called Mark to subtly expose me. Once I overheard her saying to Mark, "She doesn't know how to cook properly, I've told you. I know how to teach her. Just need Mark to listen to me a little and things will be different." Those words tightened my heart. I tried to endure, silently bear it, hoping everything would pass and get better. But the more time passed, the smaller I felt under invisible pressures. Sometimes I wondered if I was losing myself in the house I called hell. One time, while searching for an old book in the living room, I accidentally found an old teacher's file of Linda's, carefully hidden in a drawer. Curiosity made me open it, and I was surprised to learn that she used to be a psychology teacher with many years of experience. Not only did she teach, but she also specialized in studying psychological manipulation and influence within family relationships. I recalled what she had done and said to me. Her criticisms were not just simple dissatisfaction, but a sophisticated tactic to control me, to make me feel small, unworthy, and dependent on her approval. I began to realize that I was living in a mental manipulation web, with the main puppeteer being my mother-in-law. That made me both scared and angry. Scared because I didn't know how to break free from invisible chains, and angry because I had let myself be caught in her game for too long without knowing it. Mark grew increasingly distant. The affectionate words gradually disappeared, replaced by coldness and indifference. He seemed swept up in his mother's influence, forgetting the vows he once made to me. There were times I tried to speak frankly, but every explanation was rejected. "Emma, I'm doing what my mother says. She knows what's best for us," Mark once said with a low, sad voice that I couldn't argue against. Each passing day I felt like an uninvited guest in my own home. Every step, every action was watched and judged. The feeling of isolation and helplessness wore me down to exhaustion and despair. I remember lying awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was failing as a wife or if I simply didn't belong there. I tried to hold on to faith in love, but that love faded more and more under the pressure of control and imposition. At the same time, I quietly maintained my design work, as a way to hold on to myself in a dream not yet extinguished. Work was the only place where I still felt free and myself. But I knew that freedom couldn't last forever in the shadow of this family. I needed to change, to stand up, even if it meant everything might fall apart. I told myself, I can't keep enduring like this. There must be a way to take back my voice, to take back my life. On Mark's birthday night, I spent the whole day preparing. The house was clean and tidy, as if no one had ever made a mess. I chose his favorite dishes, personally bought a small, elegant cake with happy birthday carefully decorated. I also picked a gift that I thought would surprise Mark, a classic watch, both stylish and meaningful, as a reminder of the precious moments I wanted to share with him. When Mark came home, it was already very dark. I greeted him, eyes sparkling with joy and hope. "You're home, happy birthday," I said softly, hoping to receive a smile, a thank you, or at least a hug. But he brushed past me without a word. I felt a little disappointed but still smiled to avoid making the atmosphere tense. Tonight, I thought, at least we could have dinner together. However, when I invited him to sit at the table, Mark just glanced and said coldly, "You waste too much time on these meaningless things. I'm tired." I didn't understand why those words hurt me so much. I had tried to spend the entire day for him, for his happiness. But why did I only receive such cruel indifference? Before I could respond, my mother-in-law, Linda, appeared from the next room. She approached Mark, whispering something that immediately darkened his eyes. I saw her curl her lips in contempt, with a look full of implication. "She's not worthy of you, Mark," she whispered, her voice dripping with disdain as if wanting to dig deep into my husband's mind. Mark turned to look at me with eyes full of anger. "You'd better listen to my mother, you've disappointed me too many times," he said, his voice full of sarcasm and cruelty. The pain inside me exploded, tears streaming down my cheeks. I tried to hold back my sobs, but Mark didn't relent. He stepped forward, so angry that he suddenly smashed the old TV, the only gift left from my father, onto the floor. The TV shattered, sharp glass fragments flying everywhere. Before I could react, Mark pushed me out of the living room, out of that cold house, the place I once called home. Outside, heavy rain poured down, cold wind blowing in gusts that made me shiver all over. I collapsed on the cold pavement, blood flowing from the wound on my head. The sharp pain stung my entire body, but even more painful was the betrayal, the utter loneliness amidst my cold mother-in-law's family. I called my brother Alex, my voice trembling, broken sobs escaping from my throat. "Alex, please, I need you. I don't know what to do." In a moment, the peace in my soul disappeared, replaced by extreme despair. When I remembered childhood memories, the pain of losing my birth mother early was still there, like an unhealed wound in my heart. My mother, the only one who ever protected and believed in me, had left this world when I was too young to fully understand the loss. And now, in the new home I hoped would have love and protection, I was abandoned, hurt mercilessly. Sleepless nights often found me wondering, was fate too cruel to me? Or was I just too naive to believe empty promises? I remembered when my mother said no matter how hard life's challenges were, her daughter should always remember to hold on to strength and faith in herself. Though now I stand on the brink of collapse, I know I cannot fall. The rain outside challenges me, but inside me a small flame begins to flicker, signaling a battle not yet over. After that terrible night, Alex never left my side. He drove me to the hospital where doctors carefully treated the wound on my head. In the cold waiting room, Alex sat beside me, eyes full of worry and determination. "Emma, you have to be strong. I'll help you get through this," he said, gripping my shoulder to give me strength. As soon as my health stabilized, Alex helped me file for divorce. We sat together in the lawyer's office, discussing every clause, every necessary step. It was the first time I truly realized I was no longer the naive girl who only believed in empty promises. I had to stand up, fight for justice and for my own life. "No one has the right to take away your happiness," Alex said firmly. "We will do everything so you won't be hurt anymore." I agreed, feeling a determination I'd never had before. But I knew this fight was not just about divorce. It was about exposing the truth. To gather more evidence to protect myself, I decided to hire a private detective, Thomas. He was an experienced man, famous for his ability to uncover hidden information. "Emma, I'll find out everything about Mark," Thomas said with sharp eyes. "We won't let him hide anything." In the days that followed, I lived in an emotional chaos, both anticipating and fearing what would be uncovered. Thomas began tracking and gathering information from Mark's meetings, phone calls, and related documents. After just a few weeks, the secret curtain started to lift. Thomas called me on a rainy afternoon, his voice both excited and serious. "Emma, I discovered Mark is involved in large-scale money laundering activities at the bank where he works. This is no longer just a personal matter, but a serious financial crime." My head spun. Mark, the man I once trusted, turned out to be connected to financial crime. The images of him at romantic dinners, the wedding promises slowly faded, replaced by a harsh and complex truth. Thomas went on to explain that Mark used fake accounts, transferring money through multiple layers of shell companies to hide the trail. "He's not only deceiving you, but the entire system," Thomas said. What shocked me even more was when Tomas revealed Mark's ties to a dangerous financial crime syndicate, specializing in dark deals and laundering money for illegal activities. I recalled the times Mark came home late, the secret phone calls, the unexplained disappearances. Everything began to make more sense. But at the same time, it broke my heart even more. "Emma, this isn't just about betrayal in marriage anymore," Thomas continued. "We're facing a powerful force and they won't let it go if he's exposed." I sat silently, feeling trembling spread through me. Yet deep inside my soul a fierce fire ignited, the fire of justice, courage, and determination not to be defeated. "We will do the right thing," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "No matter what we face, I won't stay silent anymore." Realizing I couldn't fight this battle alone, I was deeply grateful that Olivia, my best friend from college, didn't hesitate to come live with me. Olivia has always been strong, straightforward, and knows how to inspire. Her presence made my small house feel much less cold. Every morning, as gentle sunlight streamed through the window, Olivia was the first to pull me out of bed, urging me to start the day with positive energy. With Olivia, I began regular exercise, yoga, running, and basic self-defense training. I knew I needed to be strong, not only physically but mentally, to prepare for the challenges ahead. When I was tired, she was always there to comfort me and remind me, "Emma, true strength comes from within, and you have it." Besides exercising, I also decided to start a personal blog, sharing my struggle in hopes of helping other women who are also suffering from violence and oppression. With every post, I tried to send a message about resilience and the right to live free and happy. Unexpectedly, my blog quickly attracted great attention. The encouragement and shared stories from readers made me feel less alone. One autumn afternoon, I received a call from Detective Sarah Miller, the police investigator working on the corruption case at the bank where Mark was employed. Sarah was sharp, subtle, but also very understanding and compassionate. We met at a small cafe, where she gently listened to my story and shared information about her investigation. "I believe your story could be the key to breaking this corruption ring," Sarah said with determined eyes. "We'll work closely together, and I will protect you as much as possible." Since then, we began exchanging information and coordinating evidence gathering. The data Thomas, my private detective, provided was carefully analyzed by her, supplemented with documents and proof from the police. I felt justice and hope gradually revive inside me, not just for myself, but because justice was being served. Every meeting, every exchange, I felt myself growing stronger, more resilient. From a naive girl, I became a woman who knew how to stand up, demand her rights and the truth. There were times I was exhausted, times I doubted, but beside me were always Olivia and Sarah, indispensable companions in this fight. After a while, I started noticing a clear change in Mark's behavior. He became more cautious, calmer, but in his eyes still hid subtle threats that made me uneasy. I knew Mark had discovered that I hired Thomas to follow him. The secret phone calls, the times he turned to look at me every time I went out, were no longer coincidences. Linda, my mother-in-law, also didn't miss the chance to increase pressure on me. She began spreading malicious rumors at gatherings with friends and acquaintances, ruining my image in the community. "Emma is not an ideal wife, always causing trouble and not knowing how to keep the family," she said with a smug face at a meeting with acquaintances. Those words were like sharp knives, piercing straight into my heart. I couldn't let things go too far. Alex, Sarah, Thomas, and I quickly planned to gather stronger evidence. Not only signs of domestic violence, but also documents related to Mark's illegal financial activities. We knew that only the truth and undeniable evidence could help me stand firm legally and socially. Day by day, step by step, I gradually uncovered shocking truths about Mark's double life. From a model, polite husband in public, he was actually a dangerous man with many dark secrets. I found out that besides the money laundering activities Thomas reported, Mark was hiding a bigger secret. He had a child with another woman, someone I had never heard of. This information shocked me beyond belief. How could a husband, a man I once trusted and loved, deceive me so deeply? This betrayal was like a powerful punch to my heart, waking me up from all remaining illusions. I wondered, was the life I was living still my own? Or was it a fake painting that Mark and Linda had painted to cover the horrific truth behind? Despite the pain, I knew I had to keep fighting, not only for myself but for justice and truth. What I discovered not only shattered Mark's perfect image but also became crucial evidence for the law to punish him. Alex, Sarah, and Thomas were always by my side, supporting me wholeheartedly. Every meeting, every discussion, we carefully analyzed every detail, every piece of evidence, to ensure no mistake could cause me to fail. Gradually, I felt the power inside me grow day by day, fear giving way to determination never to give up. I understood this silent confrontation would be full of hardships, but I was ready. The day Mark's trial began, I entered the courtroom with a heavy heart but firm resolve. The courtroom lights shone on every dark corner where the truth would be revealed. I sat next to Alex, my steady support, while Mark's cold eyes threatened me. Linda, my mother-in-law, was also present with a sharp face, as if wanting to witness my downfall. When the trial opened, I was called to testify. I recounted every detail of the abuse, Mark's unreasonable anger, the silent pain and deep betrayal. I presented the evidence Thomas and Sarah collected together, from threatening messages, messy financial records, to clear proof of Mark's money laundering and fraud. Every word, every story, I tried to keep my voice steady, though sometimes emotion choked me. Mark did not flinch. He used every trick to deny guilt, spread lies and fake news to shake everyone's trust. He even painted me as a jealous wife, deliberately slandering me for revenge. The cunning questions from the defense lawyer were like sharp knives aimed at me, but I stood strong, refusing to let those lies make me back down. The pressure from Mark and Linda outside the courtroom never ceased either. I knew they threatened and used all means to scare me, but I couldn't let fear control my life. The presence of Alex, Sarah, and Thomas by my side gave me strength. They reminded me to keep faith and keep fighting for the truth. One unforgettable moment was when Mark's mother was called to testify in court. She entered the courtroom wearing formal attire, her cold eyes seeming to express pure contempt for me. I stood facing her, sensing the silent confrontation between two women, one fighting for justice and freedom, the other trying to protect secrets and power. Linda spoke with a thin but commanding voice. "Emma, you don't understand what Mark has had to endure because of you. You have torn this family apart." I looked directly into her eyes, responding with firmness. "A family cannot be built on lies and violence, Mrs. Linda. I'm not here to destroy, but to seek truth and justice." The confrontation between us felt like a dramatic play, but I refused to get swept away by her accusations. I knew that only the truth would help me stand strong and be freed. At the end of the trial, the solid evidence and my resilience gradually persuaded the jury. I can't express the relief I felt when I saw the sympathetic looks from those around me and the clear disappointment on Mark's and Linda's faces. Although the trial had just begun, I knew I had already won an important part of this battle, the victory of truth and determination. I held my head high, full of hope that justice would soon be served and I would no longer have to live in the shadow of fear and pain. When the trial concluded and the judge read Mark's sentence, I still remember clearly the mixed feelings of relief and emotion in my heart. Mark, the man I once trusted with all my heart, was officially sentenced to 15 years in prison for serious crimes, domestic violence and money laundering. That verdict was not only the end of a dark chapter in my life, but also the first step toward my own rebirth. As the verdict echoed, Mark's eyes remained cold, but deep inside, his usual arrogance seemed crushed by the power of justice. I no longer felt fear, nor was I threatened or controlled by him. For the first time in so long, I felt truly free. Linda, my mother-in-law, could not escape the light of truth either. Her schemes of manipulation and aiding her son in all his wrongdoings were exposed. The web of lies she and Mark had built was torn apart in the light of justice. She could not stand the social judgment and was forced to leave the city in humiliating silence, like a fugitive avoiding the consequences. The freedom I gained was not just liberation from Mark's oppression or Linda's manipulation, but also peace of mind. I began to feel the breath of a new life. A life without screams, unjust anger, and lonely nights crying in the dark. I learned to value myself, to care for and love myself more. The personal blog I started at the beginning of this fight gradually became a place connecting me to a larger community. Honest confessions, shared pain and strength, the relentless perseverance of a betrayed woman attracted thousands of readers daily. I received countless messages, similar stories, and warm encouragement that made me feel less alone. Every message, every comment was motivation to keep sharing, to keep raising my voice for women still silenced and hurt. I realized my story was not only a personal journey but also a source of inspiration to help others step out of the darkness. The biggest surprise came when I was invited to be a spokesperson for a prestigious women's rights organization. This organization works to support, protect, and raise community awareness about domestic violence and women's rights. When accepting the invitation, I didn't think about fame or personal gain. What I wanted was for my story to spread wider, contributing to real change and helping many more people. At the Ambassador Program launch, I stood before hundreds of audience members with a heart full of emotion. I recounted my journey, the pain, the battles, and the unwavering faith in justice and change. I saw empathy and hope in people's eyes, which made me know I had chosen the right path. From there, I started receiving invitations to speak at community events, participate in television programs, and write articles to raise awareness about domestic violence and women's rights. Every time I stepped onto the stage, the memories of those painful days flooded back, and I vowed never to let stories like mine fade into silence. My life gradually became richer, not just about personal recovery but also a mission I chose. I took leadership development courses, learning to inspire and positively influence society. Olivia, my close friend, was always by my side, sharing the joys and pressures of my new work. Despite being busy with activities, I never forgot to take care of myself. I maintained habits of exercise, meditation, and time for personal interests. The steps on the road to recovery were not easy, but I learned how to turn pain into strength. Besides that, I realized the immense power of the online community. People who have been following my story. They were not just an audience but allies, an endless source of energy helping me keep moving forward. Sometimes I sat alone, looking out the window at sunlight shining on the leaves, knowing I had come a long way. I had escaped the darkness, and now it was time to live a free, full, and meaningful life. Mark may have imprisoned my body for a long time, but now my spirit and peace belonged to me. I was no longer the weak girl I once was, but a strong, resilient woman who knows how to stand up for herself and those who need protection. From a betrayed and hurt girl, I became a symbol of hope and strength, and my story continues, not with old wounds, but with new aspirations and greater dreams. After the trial closed and I was officially declared free from the chains of painful days, I moved into a new apartment, a small, cozy space in the heart of Seattle. This apartment was not just where I lived, but a symbol of rebirth, a new beginning after all the scars. Entering the empty room, I felt the breath of freedom spreading throughout, like a promise of a better future. Day by day, I began rebuilding my graphic design career that I had to put on hold. I carefully nurtured each project, putting all my passion and creativity into every detail. Work not only provided me with a stable income but also was where I found joy and satisfaction seeing my creations embraced by others. The feeling of being myself, living for myself, was the greatest gift I had ever received. Not only focusing on work, I actively expanded my social circle. Through events, industry seminars, and community meetings, I met many new friends, passionate colleagues with similar goals. These relationships not only helped me grow professionally but also brought positive emotions, empathy, and sharing that I once lacked. One day, I decided to host my first live stream on my blog. Sitting before the camera, my eyes full of sincerity and determination, I recounted the entire journey, from days of abuse, despair, to the relentless fight to regain freedom and justice. I didn't hesitate to open my heart, sharing deepest thoughts, pain, and valuable lessons I had learned. Hello, everyone, I began, my voice gentle but strong. I'm Emma, and today I want to share my story, hoping to help those who are suffering like I did know that you are not alone. Speak up, believe in yourself, and never give up. The response from the online community was quick and overwhelmingly positive. Hundreds, thousands of people watched, commented, and shared my story. Words of encouragement and similar stories made me feel as if I were standing in a big family, protected and accompanied. Through subsequent live streams, I not only told my story, but invited experts, survivors, and social activists to share, creating a forum to raise awareness and support domestic violence victims. Each time I ended a broadcast, I received many thank you messages, stories about small changes in viewers' lives, and courageous decisions inspired by my story. Gradually, I became an influential voice in the community, protecting women's rights and fighting domestic violence. I was invited to participate in TV programs, international seminars, and many meaningful collaborative projects. These opportunities not only helped me grow personally, but also spread messages of love, resilience, and the right to live freely to many more people. My life now is not just about recovery but about responsibility and mission. Every day I wake up knowing I can make a difference, even if small, and that makes me feel fulfilled and meaningful. One weekend afternoon I sat by my apartment window, looking out at the bustling city and the deep blue sky. Soft sunlight warmed my face as I smiled. A smile meant not only for myself but for everyone who has been, is, and will be fighting to rediscover who they truly are. I know that no matter how hard the road ahead is, I am strong enough to keep moving forward. I am free, whole, and ready to embrace all the good things life has for me. My story, The Journey from Darkness to Light, is not only a personal journey but also the voice of millions of women fighting to reclaim themselves. I'm eager to hear your thoughts and feelings about this story. What challenges have you faced in life? Have you ever had to stand up like I did to protect yourself? Please share your story in the comments below, because every voice matters and sharing helps us become stronger. If you feel inspired by this story and want to join me on the journeys ahead, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I will continue bringing true stories about life, family, love, and inner strength, so we can learn and grow together. Thank you for listening and accompanying me. See you in the next stories where light always awaits to guide those who never stop believing and rising.